Peace, what's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown LMT, and I'm your host. And my co-host, he's not here right now, but he will be on, I think, in a few minutes. If not, it's all good. We're gonna keep going with this. I have the brother Ray Bay in the building today from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Almighty Zulu Nation.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
about to explain to us exactly what is Zulu Nation and etc. I have some questions for the brother, but before we get into those
Mhm.
questions, a brief summary. I've known the brother since I've been in my 20s. We don't know the exact date,
Yeah, yeah.
but since I've been in my 20s, since he's been in his 20s, we know
Hmm.
each other. We've been around each other. That's my brother.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
my bro. That's
yeah,
real.
yes, sir. Um,
Hmm.
and man, I'm glad to see you, man. Glad to have you here, man.
Yeah, yeah, thank
Let
y'all.
Yes, sir. Let it, because YouTube is like a quick, fast, in a hurry. Let's
Yeah,
go
yeah.
right into the questions, Mo.
Let's get to it. Yeah.
All right. First off, what is the Zulu Nation? Let's talk about what's the Zulu Nation.
Well, to give my own opinion of the Zulu Nation will be different from what the Zulu Nation says the Zulu Nation is. Right? So I'm gonna tell you what the Zulu Nation says the Zulu Nation is, which is right and exact. I don't waver against that. You know, I fall in alignment with it. But through my experience, Zulu Nation has become even more than what the Zulu Nation says it is. So we in the Universal Zulu Nation, we have laws that guide us to make sure that we are in alignment with the aims and objectives of the Universal Zulu Nation. First law and regulation states that Zulu Nation is no game. It's an organization of individuals in search of success, peace, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and the righteous way of life. So that's the Zulu Nation.
Got you.
True
Got you.
indeed.
That's clear. Um, has it always been the Universal Zulu Nation or just the Zulu Nation?
Yes. Well, it had went through various phases. You know, some people say that it hasn't had these, five different names. Before it was the Zulu Nation, those who established what we know as the Zulu Nation were all members of the Black Spades, right? So the Black Spades is the Zulu Nation's foundation. You know, the
Hmm.
founders of the Zulu Nation were Black Spade members, members of the Black Spades. Africa Bambaataa, being the founder of the Universal Zulu Nation, was a war chief,
Hmm.
if you will, in the Black Spades. I forget which division exactly, but he was highly significant and had a large army behind him. So when he stood, others stood along with him, right? So from the Black Spades came an organization called the Organization. Brothers, I think from the Bronx River community, you know, being inspired by ultimately the Black Panthers,
Hmm.
the Black Panthers and the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, and they wanted to be organized, thus calling themselves the organization, and with the objective of taking care of their community. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And from there, Africa Bambaataa was communicated to the Zulu Nation, but personally to me as well, that when he started the Zulu Nation, he was inspired by a situation that happened to a friend of his. If I'm not wrong, a best friend of his was murdered by the police,
Hmm.
and the rage that is sent through the community was like, you know, we can't accept this no more. You know what I mean? And like our beloved brother Khalid used to say, revolution is the only solution. You know what I mean? We're not playing no more. So with the movie Zulu, not the movie Shaka Zulu, but the movie Zulu. Bambaataa was inspired by the rebellion, against European oppression in South Africa, and he adopted the name Zulu Nation for the organization. So it went from the organization to the Zulu Nation because the name just carried more significant power. You know what I mean? It resonated with the people, with the idea of revolution. And as time went on, with the growth of the organization from Bronx and beyond the Bronx River, Bronxdale, all the areas where Zulu was popular in the Bronx, it became the Almighty Zulu Nation because chapters formulating all over the city and outside the city as well. You know what I mean? In other cities like New Jersey, Connecticut, and so forth and so on. And as the gospel, if you will, tended to spread about what the Zulu Nation was about through hip hop culture, we adopted the universal opposed to almighty because here now we got chapters in Puerto Rico, chapters in Belgium, Japan, and South Africa. Everywhere you think about, there was a chapter of the Zulu Nation, outside of New York City. So therefore, it is now the Universal Zulu Nation. Peace.
Got you. Got you. Peace.
Yeah,
Um, this is kind of off the questions. Um,
yeah.
I just want to know, like, when did you get involved with the Zulu Nation? Like, at what age was that? This is something I forgot to put in here, but what age did you get involved?
Yeah, I like to think like right before I turned 15 years of age, or maybe at the age of 15. You know, I know I was in high school at the time, and it was a very interesting period in my life because of the gangs in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens, were very turbulent. They wasn't playing, and everybody was taking a corner, taking a side. You know what I mean? You gonna be from this, or you gonna be a part of that. And at that time, I didn't necessarily want to be a part of any gang because the West Coast, was popular for the Bloods and the Crips.
Mhm.
And if you're interested in any documentation or documentaries, you learn about the almighty Black Peace Stone Nation and the Vice Lords, the Gangster Disciples, and that was a Chicago thing. But in my neighborhood, like every neighborhood had a gang
Can you give us
dedicated.
those names?
Well, ultimately, you had in South Side Jamaica, Queens, you had the Lost Boys,
Right.
and the Lost Boys were quite significant. They had Southside on lock, right? They
See.
had just about all of the high schools in the Jamaica Queens on the Queens area on lockdown. You know what I mean? And then with the rap group, the Lost Boys, amplified their popularity. So at this young tender age of mine, I was interested in the 5%. Because all of the older brothers in my neighborhood who was somebody, had a righteous name,
Mhm.
So here it is. I'm being drawn to this, and also because of hip hop music.
Right.
You turn on the what you call it, video music box, and you got the Jungle Brothers, you got uh, De La Soul, you got
Yes, sir.
Brand Nubian,
Yes,
King
sir.
Son, and all these different personalities of brothers, speaking, about something positive rather than something destructive, that rang in my ear quite often. So, I was interested in the 5%, and a friend of mine's, good beloved brother of mine's, who had his home was taken advantage of because his father wasn't really stable. So older brothers in the hood turned his house into a place where brothers sold drugs out of.
Mm.
And they had no control over that. They went with it, And one of the brothers that was involved with that was God and had his book of life in his home. So I'm there one day and I see it sitting on the dresser and I see the universal flag drawn on the cover and I'm like, wow. And I'm just going through it. I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. Where you get this book from, right? And he's like, well, so and so had it. It was his, and he's locked up now. I ain't gonna do nothing with it, but probably throw it away. If you want, you can have it. So here I am, 14, 15 years old. Like I got everything, student enrollment. That was the beginning for me, right?
Mhm.
And had all the plus degrees, all kind of plus degrees that you can imagine. that I don't even know who the author of those plus degrees were, but it was in there, right?
Hmm.
Actual facts, everything was in it, right? The whole 120 degrees.
Hmm.
And I just wasn't 100% interested in being a part of that organization, if you will, right?
Okay.
However, some may say it's not an organization or whatever, right? However, it's an organization. It's registered in the state of New York, right? And I understand that it is recognized as a religious organization, especially in the Dismal Crips, right?
Okay.
However, all of the brothers that I knew in my neighborhood that was um, that were not the people that I wanted to be a follower of, if you will. I didn't feel like they were living up to the lessons, and it kind of tainted my perspective of the 5% at that time of my life,
Makes
being
sense.
14 years old, right? Because I'm looking for structure in my life, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Hmm.
All my older brothers was in the streets, hustling, drug addicts, and my father passed away when I was a younger boy, so I didn't have masculine guidance in my life. And I'm looking to the brothers on the corner, and they were my examples. You know what I mean, which caused me to make a lot of mistakes at a young age. So you know, I give honors to Ralph McDaniels video music box
Oh,
because
great.
I got a lot of my first ideas as to what the Zulu Nation is through video music box, right? Seeing Bambaataa and Renegades and Soul Sonic Force with the Planet Rock, and then seeing the Zulu Nation celebrate anniversary parties being celebrated on video music box. So I'm just seeing these things, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Not necessarily knowing what the Zulu Nation was. And a good friend of mine I grew up with, he came to me one day after school. He said, "Yo, I got Zulus in my school, and there's a lot of them." And they were talking about that positive stuff. So I said, "Well, let me see what this is about." And about five of us from my neighborhood in Hollis, Queens, we went to a Zulu meeting, and after that, it was a wrap.
Oh, so you're
You
from
know,
Hollis?
I'm from Hollis, Queens. Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, but I'm from Hollis, Queens.
Got you. Got
Hmm.
you. So,
Yeah,
I
sure
mean,
did.
I know we're kind of veering off a little bit on a tangent, but
Yeah,
I want people to know a little bit about Queens. I love Queens. Queens is, I'm going to call Queens my third home. Harlem is
yeah,
first,
yeah,
Bronx is
yeah.
second, Queens is third. Now,
Sure did.
the difference between South Side and Hollis, real quick.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that's different between South Side and Hollis, I think, two different things. Um, there's a poverty, um, like some neighborhoods are just poverty stricken, right? Like it's just like you go there and you see um, dirt everywhere you go, bottles on the floor, garbage, you know, and when you in Southside Queens, you tend to see a lot of that, especially like on main roads, like on Sutton Boulevard, Foch, Baisley, all that area. You know what I mean? You see a lot of things that kind of like depressing, if you will. So it creates a certain state of mind, right?
Mm,
Hollis Queens is not necessarily that way. You know what I mean? It's not too many neighborhoods where you can look at it and say, "Oh, this is a bad area." However, what's on the surface doesn't necessarily determine what the community is like. You know what I mean? So that is two different things. 'Cause Southside got a couple of projects, housing projects. You got 40 projects, which is called Jamaica houses. You got Baisley projects. Some people even call Rochdale projects, but they're actually co-ops. And but it's in the hood, right? So Hollis, Queens, they got an area called Woodhall, where I'm from, where I grew up at. And I didn't necessarily live in Woodhall or in the buildings, but I lived on the outside of it. And all my childhood friends were from the buildings. So, there's really nothing that separates South Side from Hollis. except for a little bit of distance. And just about everybody I know from Hollis got a cousin in the South Side that's somebody significant, and vice versa. So a
Mhm,
lot of the differences came from a misunderstanding. You know what I mean? And not
mhm.
knowing who's who and who's related to who. And if we did, it wouldn't have been a lot of the conflicts that we had growing up. You know,
Got you.
just
Got you.
foolishness. Yeah,
Got you. Let's reel it back a little bit.
yeah.
Let's talk about uh before we go deeper into your history a little bit more.
Hmm.
I want to ask about um so you had five percenters, you
Yeah,
had
sure. Do.
Zulu Nation.
Yeah.
What about the Seven Crowns?
Seven Crowns. See, I'm a younger brother, right?
Mhm,
I'm 44 years of age now. But Seven Crowns wasn't a popular thing when I was 14, 15 years old. You know,
mhm,
I didn't know about the Seven Crowns until I probably like in my late teens, my early 20s. And I know Seven Crowns was out in Jamaica, Queens, and I think there was some in the Bronx as well, you know?
mhm.
So I know Seven Crowns were influenced. I'm going to go say influenced. I could guarantee that the majority of the members of the Seven Crowns were guards, you know, and so just like even in the Black Spades, a great deal of the Spades were 5%. Africa Bambaataa himself told me before he started the Zulu Nation, he himself was on the 5%. You know,
Mhm.
many brothers I know from the Tomahawks. You know what I mean? One of the largest street organizations in Brooklyn in the 60s and the 70s, 5%. Like the brother Freedom of Law, who we
Mm.
all know as Papa Wu. You know what I mean? He's one of the most popular guards in the whole New York City. You know what I mean? Specifically Brooklyn, New York, and various other street organizations. So that's the only thing I really know about the Seven Crowns is that they was an organization in Jamaica Queens. I can't even tell you the time frame where they were actually functioning in because they were very much before my time.
Right. And so it was mainly the 5% Nation, Zulu Nation. And then as far as like the street history, as far as the drugs and all of that, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, a whole
It's
nother
actually
story.
yeah, that's actually separate from what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and everybody knows that history has been
Yeah,
told over
yeah,
and over and over and over again.
yeah.
All
So
right.
at
So
that time, you had the 5%. I can't, because it had a street element to it because a lot of brothers that's God, that I knew growing up were in the streets. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Just like we all were. This is where you from. This is your neighborhood. You can't avoid the activities in the area. You know what I mean? Unless you separate yourself from it. But if you
right.
live there, you live there, right? So
Mhm.
other organizations that were prominent at that time, uh, the Latin Kings.
Latin Kings, right.
Latin Kings, very prominent at the time. The After Association,
Mm.
right? You had La Familia. They had a very short lifespan, but they existed at that time when I was a young teenager. Exploring the streets, and um, and then you had Brooklyn with the Decepticons, the Low
Yes.
Lives. I didn't have any interactions with them because that's Brooklyn. I really ever didn't see them in Queens, but I know they were out in Far Rockaway also, and that's just like another a state itself. You know what I mean? So if you're
Mhm.
not from Far Rockaway, you had no business out there. You don't necessarily know what's going on there, but I know the Decepticons was out there um, in
And
Far
a low.
Rockaway as well as Low Lives as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you had different neighborhoods that had different gangs, like in Hollis, Queens. You had KGB. I can't even tell you what KGB stood for, but I know a lot of brothers from Hollis, Queens that was part of them. And then you had in Bricktown, you had you had Toy Soldiers in Bricktown. That was like one of our most formidable enemies. You know what I mean?
So
It was
you said toy soldier. Can you put the mic up to your
upon so
yeah,
yeah, the Toy Soldiers. Yeah, Toy Soldiers. They were very aggressive. You know what I mean? And you also had Shadow Inc. Shadow Inc. was another crew from out of Jamaica, Queens, and you know, for whatever it was, they all had a problem with the Zulu Nation. I don't know what it was, but it was like this Zulu Nation thing. we don't want it around us, and they made themselves enemies to the Zulu Nation, and as time went on, we grew up, we became men, and we let bygones be bygones, what I mean? We don't dwell on the negativity. It's
Right,
wonderful that today I could see brothers from those different groups, and it's love to this day, you know what I mean?
right, right. Now, this is important because now some of my viewers, a lot of my viewers, I think,
Yeah,
they're from Chicago, and I've been
yeah,
on the phone with brothers from Chicago, and they didn't really know that New York had all of these different crews
yeah,
and gangs.
very much so.
Like they don't like people believe that New York started catching wind of gangs during the blood era
Nah, it's just the
in
'60s.
'93.
And
Right.
before that, yeah,
Before
before
that.
that, yeah, there's a good brother I know by the name of brother Watusi Branch. He passed away a few years back, and he used to tell me about the gangs back in the '60s. Because I think he was a chaplain, and chaplain was a big gang, like Fort Greene, Brooklyn, around the area where what's the brother Shamgar is from. He's from those projects over there, and the chaplains were like the main operating gang in that community. And if I'm not wrong, I think Shamgar and them were chaplains.
Mm,
I'm not gonna put 100% on that, but I know 9 times out of 10, if you were a teenager in that neighborhood and you think you somebody, the gang made you somebody. You know what
right.
I mean? And it wasn't that you joined it because you were soft. It was just like this is the brotherhood in our community, and this is what we all represent. But and that's been going on since the '60s. And if I'm not wrong, even prior to that. So you had that Black Spades. You had this Spanish Spades.
Then the
Uh,
Jolly Stompers. Remember the
Jolly
Jolly
Stompers from Crown Heights, Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Like I said, the Tomahawks.
Tomahawks, yep.
You got good movies like The Education of Sonny Carson that
Yes, sir.
depicted some of the gang life in New York City during the early '70s. That's like one of my favorite films of all time,
Right.
as
Mine too.
well
Mine
as
too.
what's that movie? The Warriors was
Well,
that was a cartoon. You know what I mean? That wasn't real gang activity. You know what I mean? It was a good movie. However, it didn't really depict what the gang culture in New York City was like. But definitely the education of Sonny Carson,
was
on the
was the one.
money for that.
Right. That's a fact.
Yeah,
So now you get into the Zulu Nation at 14, 15.
yeah, yes,
When you get
indeed.
into the Zulu Nation at 14, 15, I mean, and it was you said it was positive.
The positive,
They were
yeah.
they spoke about, being positive and things like that.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what was the I don't know if you could speak on it, but what was the initiation like at that, you know,
Well, I'm gonna tell
at
you
the
this.
age?
Um, yes, it was positive. Zulu
Mhm.
Nation stands for something positive. It says Zulu Nation stands for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, freedom, justice, equality, peace, work, fun, overcoming the negative to the positive, true science, facts, faith, and the oneness of God, right?
Mhm.
However, just because the organization may stand for something positive, if I live in this neighborhood and I go to school over here in another neighborhood where Zulu Nation may not be popular at, and they're not they're not gonna bother me because I look the way I look. I don't look like the guy that somebody's gonna bother, right? But then I got a little brother, he's Zulu, and he don't look as tough as I look. And he go to school and he get beat up. Now, how much peace are we going to have if you picking on my loved ones, right? So
Right.
now it may be 50 of y'all in y'all neighborhood, but it's 100 or so in my chapter.
Mhm.
And that's not just one chapter in New York City. It's hundreds of chapters in New York City. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm cool with 3 or 4 chapters in the local area. So if they say, hey, I got problems, they got problems too. So now they coming out. So now they're like about 400 or 500 Zulus coming to beat up on 50 guys. But we didn't tell y'all to mess with the little brother who looked like he couldn't be, you know what I mean? Like he couldn't stand up for himself. So
Makes
in the Zulu Nation, we say that we believe that Zulus are people of peace. We
Mhm.
respect those who respect us. We are at peace with those who are at peace with us. But if we are attacked by an aggressor and oppressor, then we as Zulus are taught in the name of Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh to fight those that come against us,
Right.
respectfully. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's intelligent that we, protect ourselves,
Oh yeah.
you know. So, however, we weren't taught to be the aggressors or the oppressors, But at the same time, if you mess with us, you're taught we're gonna make you wish that you didn't bother none of us. You know what I'm saying? However, yeah.
Got you. So like you can't really expound on the initiation if there is one. Um,
Um, I tell you
but
this.
mhm,
I didn't go through no initiation in the Zulu Nation.
okay,
The chapter that I joined didn't have um, an initiation, as some people might think you got to get jumped in,
right,
or what they was doing with some other groups. They sex the girls and stuff like that. My chapter didn't participate in that. Uh, but I knew some Zulu chapters that were a bit aggressive. You know, uh, some people had to go through the Apache line. Just like you saw in the education of Sonny Carson, when
right.
Sonny Carson he signed up to the laws, and what I mean, they
To
made
run
him
through
go
that,
through that line, and the
take them
brothers
through
was
the
swinging
bill.
belt buckles and all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
what I mean. Yeah, that's the Apache line. I mean, and some brothers had to go through that to join the Zulu Nation.
mm,
However, that wasn't a requirement for my chapter, and it definitely wasn't a requirement for me because um, I didn't look like I needed to be challenged on that level because of my community where I came from. They automatically say, "Oh yeah, this brother's a G." You know what I mean? He ain't
mm,
soft. We don't have to put him through any,
that-
situation to prove that he's going to be, a faithful member or whatever. You know what I mean? Loyal to this. So
got
I probably got a pass because of my community where I come from.
you. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So now that
Yeah,
we got past that, right?
yeah.
When did it start? Like, what year did the Zulu Nation start?
Well, in all reality, let's be clear. Today is the birth date of the Universal Zulu Nation. No,
Wow, isn't that funny?
November 12th, 1973.
Wow,
That's peace.
that's interesting.
Yeah. All things, it said, Lord governs all events. There are no coincidence, right? No
Right.
happenings. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think we're having this conversation today rather than last week, right? So
Right.
yeah, that's positive. Yeah, today is the birthday of the Zulu Nation. So today rings the bell of the Zulu Nation 50th anniversary. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
All right. So now, what relationship what relationship does it what relation does it have to the black spade? Well, you already went over that. You already went over
Yeah.
the black spades.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you already went over the
Yeah,
black
the Black
spade.
Spades are our brothers. Black
Yeah.
Spades, brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? We love the Black Spades. Black Spades love the Zulu Nation. I don't see the Black Spades as anything different from the Zulu Nation.
Oh,
We greet each other the same. I know they have their own personal greeting. And that's private. I won't share what that is. That's a Black Spades thing. But when Black Spades and Zulu see each other, we greet each other the same. We have the same understanding. Is
so it's unity among the
I
both.
don't see no division. You know what I mean? Most of the brothers that I know that are spades, I love those brothers because I know they've been through some hardship, and it wasn't easy for them to be black spades in the '60s and '70s, and I can't remember the founding date of the black spades, but it wasn't easy for them. So, you know, as them being big brothers to me, all I got was, you know, a easy transition of passing the torch. My
Mhm.
big brother, King Keith, and I think he was a spade also. He's an older gentleman. He passed away many moons ago. And he used to say to us in the Zulu Nation, in our unification rallies, he used to say, we did it, so y'all don't have to do it no more. Talking about the gang banging, the murdering, the hustling, all of the things that goes against, the upliftment of fallen humanity, right? And he was
Mhm.
basically saying, hey, we spades, We all the Zulus, we did all of that stuff, and I'm coming to tell you that it's whack. You're wasting your time. You don't have to go through, but if you want to touch the fire, go ahead. It's there for you to touch. And many of us had to touch the fire because yeah, we got the lesson. We heard him say it, but it didn't ring a bell until now. We need somebody to come bail us out of jail. You know what I mean? So, but honest to brother King Keith for delaying, for conveying that message to us when we were young. You know, and many other brothers, Spades, I had great conversations with, and that were good. I can't say mentors, because that's not the right exact word, but they were great teachers,
Mm,
great examples as to what it meant to being a Zulu and just a brother, representing good deeds in our community.
right. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Are all races allowed to be a part of the Zulu Nation?
Yes. Yes. Regardless of creed, race, nationality, religion, Africa being bottom made it possible that all people of the human family could be a part of the Zulu Nation.
Mm,
Yes.
all right. All right.
Mhm.
What's the we already went over what's the process of becoming Zulu. Well, we didn't really go over what was
Yeah.
the process. What's the process? Like what's the process? Like how's it go?
Well, I tell you this, brother Knowledge. My chapter that I've been a member of, because I'm not an active member in the Universal Zulu Nation, right? I haven't been an active member on paper for many years, you know what I'm saying? But I'm a
Mhm,
Zulu, because of my input and my brothers in my chapter that I have brought through the Universal Zulu Nation hold me in high regards, right? So I don't know what the Universal Zulu Nation today accept for their membership. I can't really speak on it. But when I was a young man and active, you had to be um you had to be with it. You had to be able to hold up the flag of the Universal Zulu. It couldn't be no sucker, right? And you
mhm,
couldn't be an agitator as well. We didn't want no troublemakers. However, a lot of us were troublemakers, right? But this is my homeboys, this is my friends. They wanted to sign up, and what the requirement was, you got to make it to your meetings, right? You got to learn these laws and regulations. There's 20 of them. We got beliefs. There's 15 of them. We got infinity lessons. There's 7 of them. You had to be in tune with all of those things. If I'm not wrong, law and regulation number 4 says that Zulu members must learn the infinity lessons. So, in order to be considered a real Zulu, a stand up Zulu, you had to be in tune with the laws, the things that govern the Zulu nation, our ideals. You know what I'm saying? And you go through a phase of observation, you know what I'm saying, where we see if you qualify to be a part of the rank and file of the chapter. You know what I mean? Because what we say goes in my chapter in Brooklyn, Zulus in Brooklyn, they might not be with that. They might be like, yo, you got to be straight up, on some renegade stuff. You know what I mean? Where they might not even care about the lessons over there. You know what I mean? But however, they still holding up the Zulu flag. You know what I mean? And they said we Zulu, and we dare you if you ask us what one of them lessons are.
mhm.
Because now you're gonna get a beat down. You know what I'm saying? So they like challenge us if you want. Or it might be like that with the Zulus in the Bronx, the Gestapo. You know what I mean? They might not even be interested in the things that a chapter that might be into community activism might be interested in. You know what I mean? But however, it's still brotherhood, it's still love. But
Mm,
our requirements over here might not be the same as requirements in the next chapter. You know what I mean? Because it all depends on the leadership. The chapter leader might be somebody, who might not necessarily be interested in, you know, uh, gang activity. But a lot of us were engulfed in gang activity because we joined when we were 15 years old, going to
right.
high school with other gangs, and that's a part of our activities now. We got to get home from school. So,
Mhm,
if you want to be down with Zulu Nation and you in our neighborhood, you got to be ready to represent this the right way. And so you
indeed.
had some chapters that, didn't have those issues because they probably were older members. You know what I mean? And the older members didn't have those problems, but the younger ones did. You know,
Mm,
so everybody's observation was a bit different, and especially outside of New York City, where gang activity with Zulu Nation wasn't a popular thing. Like Seattle has a chapter. I can imagine the Seattle Zulus probably never had any conflicts that we suffer from going to high school in Jamaica, Queens, or the Zulus in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, that live near Albany Projects, you know what I mean? Or the Gestapos that was out there by Burnside and Davidson, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have those issues because there wasn't no issues with Zulu Nation and other street organizations out here. So
mm,
those Zulus out there in the West Coast or Zulus that might have joined in Texas or wherever, you know, in Puerto Rico or in Germany, you know, their only interest in the Zulu Nation was hip hop. You know, they
right.
like the break dance. They was into graffiti. So they
Mhm,
joined Zulu Nation from that cultural perspective. With us in New York City, Zulu Nation was family. It was, you know, it was a community thing. You know, this is what was popping in my neighborhood. So I signed up because my big brother is Zulu. And, you know, he had the hood on smash, you know what I mean? So
right.
everybody's experience may not have been the same. So it's not you know a common or one specific thing that each individual had to go through to become a member of the Zulu Nation.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Now, this is kind of like off the questions,
Yeah,
but like, I want to talk about hip hop artists that are considered Zulu Nation. I remember like a
yeah,
couple years ago, or a few maybe even five, probably more than that.
yeah.
Little Wayne was supposed to be Zulu Nation.
Lil Wayne is blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
serve two masters? I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He was
yeah.
Crip. He was wearing the blue flag one video. Now he wearing the red flag, and he's Zulu. I never seen Lil Wayne at a Zulu meeting, right?
All right.
Uh, I don't know no Zulus that know Lil Wayne. Let me say that, right?
Okay.
So yeah,
And then we got Fat Joe. Fat Joe was a part of Zulu Nation, right?
Fat Joe made the song "Dedication," right? Um, 30 years ago, because in the song he said, first of all, you know what, God's to pay homage and respect to Africa Bambaataa, Zulu Nation, with 20 years of work, right? So he was giving a great homage to the Universal Zulu Nation because um, a lot of people that was in the background supporting his music career were members of the Zulu Nation. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And he from the Bronx. Zulu
right.
Nation reigns supreme in the Bronx. So I don't think it was I don't think I'll be wrong by saying that he uh didn't have any association with the Zulu Nation. However, I never seen him at a meeting.
Got you,
Right?
got you. But you know, a
Yeah.
tribe called Quest, they were Zulu Nation.
Yes, I know that for a fact. I've
All right.
seen Q-Tip pull up at meetings before.
Mm,
Um, I didn't know him personally. I met him a few times, but however, he wasn't never a part of a particular chapter that I could
mm,
say, hey, you know, we're gonna go pull up at that chapter today. You know, they're having a meeting, and we're gonna go kick it with them Zulus from that side of town. Um, you know, he has strong affiliations with very significant members of the Zulu Nation as well. And his involvement in the Zulu Nation extended before I even signed up. You know what I
right.
mean? So yes, Q-Tip is a Zulu. I know that. That's
All
a
right.
fact.
And what about the Jungle Brothers? This is
Jungle
just like,
Brothers is Zulus.
all right,
Yeah.
Jungle Brothers.
Yeah, Jungle
Uh,
Brothers is Zulus.
yeah. Any other
Um, you know, I could say this. Just about everybody who was you know, doing music in the 90s has some sort of association with the Zulu Nation,
mm,
and being the fact that Ben Bada was so open arms and caring, you know, people would say, "Hey, how you doing?" and Ben Bada would give him a medallion
mm,
and bless them and say, "Yeah, you a Zulu now," and then they'll wear the Zulu medallion in the video, but not necessarily. You know, somebody that actually was a dues paying member. You know what I mean? Not
okay.
somebody that I could say, hey, I could have a conversation with this person about. the Zulu Nation lessons and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I seen Naughty by Nature, Tretch wearing Zulu colors at an event one time. But I know he not Zulu. He blood.
Tretch's
He
blood.
Yeah, Tretch brought Bloods to New Jersey. He's like the one of the pioneers of Bloods in the East Coast,
I
contrary to popular belief.
I had no idea about that, man.
Yeah, when they do that thing, that double I,
Yeah.
right? That double I was short for Illtown in Inglewood, California. Illtown, New Jersey, and
Yeah.
Inglewood, California.
Mm.
Indeed, that was their connection to California, Illtown,
Now you
and
gotta have me doing some research on that.
yeah. He
Now I'm
was
like,
like
what?
Church was like the pioneer of Bloods in East Coast before 1993.
Damn, that's
Yeah, there
crazy.
was Bloods in East Coast before that non-trade thing, to my knowledge.
Well, he was tight with Tupac too.
Indeed, and what's the brother from uh Squeak Rule? I forget what rap group Squeak Rule was a part of. I think he was signed to who Bang Records with I might be wrong about that, but Squeak Rule. If you look up Squeak Rule, he's a blood from
Squeak
Inglewood.
rule like
Yeah,
squeaky,
like Squeaky. Yeah, Squeak
squeaky,
Rule. Yes,
squeak,
indeed. Him
squeak
and
rule like a ruler.
Rule, all you Squeak Rule.
Are you
Yes,
all right?
indeed. Him and Tretch had a real strong relationship from the music thing, and Tretch spending a lot of time in California, and him bringing guys from Newark to Cali, turning them on into the blood thing, and then they going back to New Jersey and bringing that out there way before they was doing it in New York City.
That's interesting
Yeah,
because
very much so.
New York
Yeah,
is hard body on that. Hard
yeah,
body.
very much so. Yeah. hmm
So now, what are the misconceptions of the Zulu Nation?
Um, I don't know where to begin. You know, you give me one of the things that you heard about the Zulu Nation, and I confirm whether it's true or false.
Zulu Nation is violent.
Humanity at large is violent.
That's for
The
sure.
Zulu Nation don't do not, like I said, in our belief in the Universal Zulu Nation says we believe that Zulu Nations are people of peace,
Hmm.
right? You said we believe, right?
Hmm.
Now the word belief is also rooted in doubt,
Yeah.
right? So therefore we know that not everybody in the Zulu Nation are people of peace, but we believe in general Zulu Nation are people of peace. We respect those who respect us. So initially when I first met you, I didn't I wasn't proclaiming to be a Moorish American at the time. I don't even think I was, right?
Nah, I don't think you were. Nah.
Right, although I had a knowledge of it,
Yeah,
but
nah.
I wasn't able to make the commitment to the charge of a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America because of the lifestyle that I was living, right?
Mhm.
So however, when you met me as a brother that was peaceful,
Right.
a brother with respect, with some moral, some moral altitude, right? Who had
Mhm.
character, and that was able to bring us together. So
Right.
I think that most Zulus I know, more than 90% are like that. Here and there you might find somebody who's a little bit of standoffish. You know what I mean? And I mean, what human being, you know, isn't like that in this day and age. But Zulu Nation is not a violent organization. Now, we have participated in violent activities because, if we are met by an aggressor and oppressor, we're not turning the other cheeks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We believe in self defense,
Yes, sir.
respectfully. Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. Now that we got that, that's the one misconception. I don't know if you know of any, but that was the only thing that was on my mind about the Zulu
Yeah,
Nation.
yeah, yeah.
Zulu Nation.
Indeed.
Like, like you hear things online. This person was this. They were, you know, killers and this, that, and the third, and then said,
Yeah.
"Oh, gotta fear them," and all. Like, listen, the way I grew up and living in from between the Bronx and Harlem, I never
Hmm.
looked at Zulu Nation as being like a negative thing at all.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
indeed,
um,
indeed.
I never viewed that. I never looked at the Zulu Nation like that at all. I knew the Zulu
Hmm.
Nation wasn't a nation to really be playing with because, like,
Yeah,
even with the 5% nation, the 5% nation ain't a nation to be playing with. The
yeah,
NOI is not a nation to be
nah,
playing with. Just New
nah, not
York
at
in
all.
general. The New York in general is just like the nations in general out here.
Yeah,
You don't want to be like trying to play games. So
yeah, yeah,
I knew
yeah,
that already, but like recently in internet history, I've been hearing like the violent part. So
yeah,
like
yeah. I can't really
extreme
speak to that. Only thing I can speak to is, you know, and this is in all honesty, um, I can't speak on what I don't know. If I didn't have the experience, I can't speak on it intelligently, right? And
gotcha.
it's not my place to speak on somebody else's experiences in the Zulu Nation. I can speak on mine clearly, you know, intelligently. And the only violence that I remember growing up in the Universal Zulu Nation was, you know, those after school conflicts with other street gangs. You know what I'm saying? And that lasted for a short period of time. You know, in my neighborhood, lasted for a short period of time. But in other areas, you know, you have, you know, Zulus that were like rubbing shoulders with other groups for long periods of times, and eventually those things faded out. You know, people grow older, they family, man, they got children. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, we grow out of it. You know, so however, now you got younger members, right? You know, that grow into the Zoo Nation, and now they conflict with other young groups. You know, however, that's not a popular thing today because you know, is that the street gang activity. You know, guys is only tough amongst their own people. They're only tough in their own neighborhood. You know, as soon as they step out of their neighborhood, they're no longer tough. I don't even think street gangs even clash and fight anymore. You know what I mean? Guys is in the same gang and shooting each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. This question here,
yeah.
um, the issue between the 5% nation and the Zulu Nation back in the days,
Mhm.
what was that about? I don't know if you know anything about it.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
and again, I can only speak on what I'm familiar with and what I was able to experience, right?
Mhm.
So, when we were members of Temple 23 in Harlem, right, under the leadership of A. Hopkins, not A. Hopkins Bey, excuse me, a brother
Hakeem.
Hakeem Bey,
Yeah.
and the assistant Grand Chief A. Kaleem Bey, right?
Hmm.
Brother A. Kaleem Bey, who was the assistant Grand Sheik at that temple, uh, he was communicating to me about the conflict between Zulus and the guards. And he was like, yo, there was a lot of lives that was lost on both sides, and it was all because of a misunderstanding.
Mm.
See what I'm wearing right now, right?
Yes, sir.
This is a headdress that I made. Islamic and Moorish in this design, right?
Hmm.
So to many, some might say this is a crown that the guards wear, or similar to one, right? A kufi with a tassel attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Zulus was wearing this too. Why? Because there's no organization in the 5% that actually determine who's who and who's not, right? So there were Zulus that professed to be 5%. And you say, how is that so? Because in the Zulu Nation, we have a belief. It says we believe in the one God who is called by many names: Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, the Most High, the Creator, Supreme One. We recognize them all to be the same one God. We will not fight or kill other human beings over which proper name to call God. We believe that God will come to be seen by the human now and will straighten out the problems that man has brought upon this planet so-called Earth. So therefore, Zulu Nation accepted people from all backgrounds of spirituality and ideologies, right? So the most of the brothers in the hood from uptown Bronx, Harlem, were 5%.
Hmm.
Black Spades members at the same time, and members of the Zulu Nation. So it's like, yeah, I'm God, but Zulus run my neighborhood, and I'm one of the Zulus that run the neighborhood. I'm in this organization, right? So I guess there was a clash between Zulus and Guards because of the miscommunication as to who could wear this and who couldn't. That's my understanding. And it's a finite point of view because I wasn't there. And this is just I'm going off of what I heard. And man knows naught by being told. So since I wasn't there, I really can't speak intelligently on it.
Mhm.
However, I heard that there was a lot of conflicts between the Guards and the Zulus. And neither one of us were winners or victorious in that conflict because, brothers is hurting brothers.
Right,
You
right.
know what I'm
So,
saying?
so,
Yeah.
so from what you heard, you mean a lot of brothers return?
Yeah, return to that's what the brother A. Kaleem Bay told me.
Mm,
He told me that. I didn't hear that from Zulus. That's what I heard from brother A. Kaleem Bay, and I was intrigued by it because I knew that there was a conflict that existed back in the maybe in the early '80s and the '70s. Um, but I really didn't, I didn't really inquire about things I didn't care about. I'm like, man, I want to hear about brothers destroying each other. You know what I'm saying? It's like you uh supposed to be God and you Zulu, and y'all have a complete parallel understanding about life. It may be slightly skewed here and there, but the Zulu Nation, 15 beliefs of the Zulu Nation is how you say, it was designed after what Muslims want or what Muslims believe from the Nation of Islam or what they have in the back of the periodical, the newspaper was the final call. I think they
mhm.
still printed out what Muhammad speaks, where it said what Muslims want or
Yep.
what Muslims believe, and that's the same thing like the Black Panthers, the 10, what was it called?
Point program.
The 10-point program, right? 10-point platform program. What is it?
I forgot exactly, but yeah,
ten
I know what
point program, right? It's the
you. Yeah.
same thing. It's basically because the Nation of Islam came out with the idea. The Black Panthers, they designed their own version of it, and the Zulu Nation designed theirs as well behind what their how you say understanding what Elijah Muhammad was teaching and saying that this is what Muslims want, this is what Muslims believe, and the Zulu Nation beliefs is basically designed after that. So the 5% nation of God's earth, yeah, founded and established by the Father, right? However, it is Elijah Muhammad's ideas that basically design what brothers is thinking, right? So we all following after this motif that is established by the Nation of Islam, and that's what the Zulu Nation was basically riding that wave on. What the Nation of Islam was teaching, you know what I mean? Because the Nation of Islam was a great influence to the Zulu Nation. We had
Mm,
strong ties with Khalid Muhammad for a long period of time before he passed away. I wasn't there to experience that because again, I'm a young brother and I didn't join Zulu Nation until later.
mhm.
And Farrakhan had strong ties with Ben Bada. You know what I mean? Other great brothers. You have Arthur 4X Muhammad from I think he's from is he from Yonkers or not Rue Rochelle? But I know he's from Westchester County, brother Arthur 4X Muhammad, and he
Maybe Mount
was
Vernon.
excuse me,
Maybe Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon. Exactly. There you go, Mount Vernon. And he was a prominent member of the Zulu Nation before he joined the Nation of Islam. And he's up there in the Nation of Islam today and still has strong ties with the Zulu Nation. So it wasn't hard for us to establish a lesson or lessons, that were influenced by the Nation of Islam. You know what I mean? Because that was like our guiding light. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Along with revolutionary ideas from the Black Panthers and Marcus Garvey.
right, right. So
Hmm.
I think at this point, like we all have a connection, right? So
Yeah,
Zulu Nation has a connections to the Moors. The Moors have connections to on the low. People may not know, but some Moors are like in the five. Some Moors are in the 5% nation, or the 5% nation. Some people in the 5% nation dabble in the
yeah,
Moorish
yeah, indeed.
teachings and things like that. And then
Yeah,
so right now we're at a point where we have a great opportunity to unite in some sense. No, we
yes,
can't. We're not trying to mix or dilute or tamper with any of the teachings.
yeah,
However, we're at a point where we could bridge the gap between all of the different organizations. We could
Yeah,
treat with one another however we can, whether it's business or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
No,
yeah. I think the bridge is already there. You know, if they don't see the bridge, it ain't for them to see it.
right,
I never had any problems with anybody in the 5%, right? I don't have no conflicts with brothers in the Nation of Islam. I love all of those things because those are the things, those organizations, those ideologies are what allowed me to be who I am today. What led
right.
me into where I'm at right now. So yes, I've been a member of the Universal Zulu Nation. I'm you know, a big brother to many in the Zulu Nation.
Mhm.
However, I'm a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali,
Yes,
Temple
sir.
number 21, Brooklyn, New York, right?
Hmm.
And Zulu Nation is my fraternal love. I'm going to be forever that, right?
Hmm.
Because of my experiences. I got family members that are Zulus because of me. I got childhood friends that are Zulus because of me, and they love the fact that I was able to transcend from one ideology to a greater understanding of this experience on this plane that things may manifest. So the Moorish Science Temple of America is the organization I belong to, but however, this is my nation.
Mm.
Zoom Nation is an organization, but the Moorish movement, this is the nation. This is what the Zulu Nation wanted to be like. You know
Right.
what I mean? So, but this is the actual thing. This is what the Nation of Islam wanted to do. Regardless of the functionality of what we see with these fleshy eyes, the ideal that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali had established, this is what we all are seeking. You know what I
Right.
mean? To be an independent people with self determination to do what they want without interfering with anybody else's self determination.
Indeed. And now look at how that works out, right? So my foundation is a 5% nation.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be that my whole the rest of my life.
yeah. I've been
However,
witness to that.
however, I was a part of the 54 in the Bronx, Temple
Indeed.
54, Moorish Science Temple of America, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And we connected basically
Hmm.
on a Moorish premise,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
That's the foundation pretty much of our friendship.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
look at how that happens. 5% Zulu Nation
Yeah.
meet in under a Moorish house,
Hmm.
and look at that.
And,
You got
and, and all is love.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, no problems, right?
Yeah. And because of that, I think that's what makes the bond even stronger is because we have a foundation and roots that come from outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America where we are also connected at.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So somebody say, oh, the Zulus and the Guards ain't together. They're not connected. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. I know many brothers that's 5% that love the Zulu Nation and vice versa.
Right.
You know what
Lord
I'm
Jamal is
saying?
one of them, right?
Yeah, true indeed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not just him. I'm talking about brothers that I know that's not even famous, right?
Gotcha.
That happen to be one and the same. They say, yeah, I'm 5%, I'm God, but I'm a member of the Zulu Nation too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And prominent members of the Zulu Nation. So, I didn't never see it as a separate thing when it comes to ideology. However, when it comes to the social aspect of it, what I mean, it may be some misunderstandings with that because, what they don't know, what I mean, they can't speak intelligently on.
Right.
However, we all come from the same fabric.
Indeed. Indeed.
We all come from the same fabric. And Marcus Garvey being a forerunner, setting the tone of revolution here in North America, you know what I mean, and influencing everybody else that came after him.
Hmm. Got you.
You know.